So, hello everyone who is watching. Today we have Vlad Gheneli as a guest, so it's kind of cool. We will, I will say my story how I discovered him later, but yeah. So here is Vlad Gheneli. So introduce yourself and
Uh,
yeah, just tell us a bit about yourself, and later we will proceed to it. And at this time, I will also play the small presentation of his artwork. So if anyone is not familiar with it, then you can see what type of artworks he actually does. So yeah, hello.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Mhm. uh, okay, so basically, could you tell us a little bit more like about your background and everything, how you started, like basically why you started drawing and when and everything, all the other stuff.
It was started with architecture. It was like I had a high school that had an architectural background, and because I kind of liked drawing as a little kid, and my parents said architecture would be a good career or stuff like that. And what I learned is that I kind of hated perspective, like that really technical perspective.
Hmm.
You have to have a very accurate, a high accuracy in everything that you do, and it's kind of. But I kind of liked the idea of creating a project. Like you had to think about all the designs and how does your house look like from outside, and then what are the functions and all that stuff. But that was at that time I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea that I wanted to just draw. I was scared to do portraits. That was
Hmm.
I was always scared. I mean, as a kid, I thought I would never do portraits because it was so hard. It was even every time I tried, it was like terrible, a disaster.
Now it's like your
And
strong part, I would say, to be
I don't
honest.
know. I'm still
Hmm.
struggling. I mean, I don't know why they're so hard, but it's just I had to put so many hours in that. And I guess when you're bad at something and you really want to succeed, there's an extra drive. Something else drives you. Like if you want to do something and you're immediately pretty good at it,
Hmm.
it's like okay, it's not that challenging.
Yeah, no
But when
fun.
you're really bad at it, it's a super challenge, and you're devoting more hours into it, right?
Hmm.
And this thing kind of started in around 2012 when I had a I was searching for a career. I didn't know I wanted to draw, so I went web designing, and it was more of a pressure because I was like 20 something and I wasn't doing anything.
Hmm.
And my parents were like, you can't just sit and do nothing all day. I had that pressure.
So you
So,
started on like 20, how much? 22, 23?
uh, something like that.
Nice.
And I was earning pretty well, in web design, and I kind
Hmm.
of liked, again, there was some design and some functionality, and the part that I hated was the clients. Oh my God, it was like
Yeah.
I had some really hard time with the clients,
I
because
can imagine the clients like when you are coding something and actually making a web page are like really not chill if you compare them to like the clients from the fantasy illustration type of field
yeah.
and everything. Hmm.
And then I was an interesting situation because I was working in a company and I started to. I mean, I was doing illustrations and like in like vector illustrations
Hmm.
and stuff like that for the web. And I said, what, I want more money, and I was like aiming for $1,000 a month or something.
Hmm.
And I started applying to other jobs, like, and I found I went to an interview and it was just blew my mind. The guy that was hiring was an ex colleague of mine from mid school.
Hmm.
The I
Yeah,
think
I
I
know. I always don't remember how to like name the school levels in English
yeah.
language.
I mean they're different. I mean we have like whatever. It
Cool.
doesn't matter. It was just
Uh huh.
the initial, the earliest stage of school.
Hmm.
And we talked and I didn't recognize him at first. And then he was like, what, you don't recognize him? And I immediately, yeah, remembered. And we talked and he said that he always remembered me drawing. And I was drawing on the desk at school. And every time some kid went out to the blackboard, and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And um, he said, "Man, I will hire you, but it's a pity, that you're so talented and you're not drawn." And it just blew my mind. I thought he's right, man. I should pursue this.
Hmm.
And I think that was the moment I actually decided that, I'm gonna. I mean, it was combined with something else. Like I actually missed drawing. That was a factor to me. Like if I don't draw for a week or 2 weeks, I'm actually missing it. I just want to take a pencil and draw something.
I understand it. Hmm.
That's something that it kind of shows you that you should be doing that.
Nice. Yeah, so I thought you started like way earlier, to be honest, because like of the quality of the works you are doing, to be honest. Like I think you got like really good really fast then. Because like I remember when I first discovered you, it was like on the Crimson Daggers forum. Like I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or 4 years ago, something like this. Uh,
I'm not sure how old this that forum, but
I
I've been posting for a while.
guess you made the thread around 2012 or 13, so it will be
Exactly.
seven
Yeah.
years ago, I guess. And I discovered the first post from 2016, I think, so it will be 4 years ago then. And I remember when I was like, okay, I'm at the stage when I am drawing like quite a lot, or at least I thought I was drawing quite a lot, and then I saw like your sketchbook, and I was like, I started scrolling, and it was like not ending, and it was like the first page that I stumbled upon, and I was like scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and there were like 5,000 sketches or something like this, like the whole boards of sketches, and I was like, haha, okay, so I'm not drawing nearly enough the time I should draw and everything. And I remember from the first day that I ever like discovered your works, I was like, okay, I need to draw that much or even more. And every time when I was doing some quick poses or figure drawing on portrait drawing or something like this, I was going through like your Crimson Dagger forum, and I was like, okay, this is the benchmark for today, like 40 faces or something like this. And I was always like so inspired like by the sheer amount of the things that you were doing. Like this is also one of the reasons I think it's quite amazing I managed to like get you on the stream, because I honestly can say you were one of the most important factors for me to just basically keep drawing as much as possible. And even though I still don't think I draw like I still would say I draw quite a lot, but I still think it's way not enough. Like I should draw way more after like always reviewing your sketchbook from there. So yeah, I guess thank you. It's nice.
Yeah. See, that's why I kind of like that. Especially I mean, posting everywhere. I try to post as much as I can
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. But that forum is like, I am actually I'm posting the bad stuff as well, so
Yeah, this
I,
is great. To be honest, this was the best
yeah,
part.
so artists usually, on their Instagram or whatever the social media they use, they're not gonna post every ugly sketch or doodle they do. They're just gonna post something that looks cool
Mm-hmm.
because, they want to showcase their best stuff. But on Crimson Dagger, I thought, you know what, this is gonna be my like a journal or journey journal or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, and I'm gonna post. And if you scroll through it, there's also thoughts and struggling with various mindsets and stuff like that. But this is the part that I always like, like getting other people to actually pursue, even though I'm not feeling that good, maybe I'm not that motivated,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't. I mean, the fact that I post, it makes people motivated and makes them think that everything's great and they should keep pushing.
Mm-hmm. We have a first question actually. So from Rodutchi or something like this is, as we all know, a lot of young peeps are taking art more seriously this past year or so, and I am really interested to hear your thoughts on it. How is it gonna affect the gaming and movie industry as a whole? So I guess it's a kinda broad question. So I guess it will be for you first, and then I will like say my thing about it. So basically, how do you think the this year and the amount of people that is going into the art will affect the gaming and movie industry?
Um,
Okay,
I
thanks.
think there has always been, a lot of people interested in this kind of stuff. The thing is right now is that the beginners have a lot of content, to learn from. So when I started out, there were like, a few tutorials, a few people like doing, not even Gumroads or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. I remember Anthony Jones came up with this Gumroad thing. At least that's how I found out about it. And he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do these quick videos, affordable that were like $5."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was amazing, man. And then he started doing I don't know, uh, they were like super quick, like you wouldn't learn much, and they were like $5, and then they moved to 15, and then it was like, what are you doing? You kind of deviated from your initial idea. But anyway, they have so much stuff to choose from, online schools, people that, as you said, you can just message someone and they'll talk to you.
Yeah,
Usually artists are pretty
that's right.
open,
Mm-hmm.
even if you have like, um, I mean, maybe if you message someone that's super popular and they get a lot of messages, maybe it's gonna be a bit harder to get through. But if you message an average, artist that you like, they're probably gonna message you back and answer all your questions, right? So everything you want to know, you just have to go and ask.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the advantage, and I mean, I guess the advantage is that you know exactly what you're getting into, right? Because when I started out, I thought, oh, I'm gonna draw all day and it's gonna be super cool. And nowadays in the industry, nobody wants that anymore, especially, in high top industry, movie industry maybe. They are not drawing as much. So there's a lot of 3D, there's a lot of photo bashing. Everybody wants stuff done fast, quick. There's a lot of money in the production days, so everybody is like a machine, and nobody cares anymore. So it's kind of, I always try to stay away from, that kind of projects where money is on the first plane. Money is all that matters. And I tried to, take projects from passionate people, like more indie games, like nowadays there a lot of indie games come up and they're amazing. They just compete with the AAA games.
The quality from
And
indie games sometimes are is even better, to be honest.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's amazing, So um, I don't know if there's gonna be a problem with having more artists. Like, it, there are so many areas that you can go to and learn. And the thing is, um, yeah, there's going to be a difference between an artist focusing on specific stuff and one that doesn't exactly know what to do, or focuses a little bit on creatures today, a little bit on characters tomorrow, and stuff like that. And what I should, if you want my advice, you should probably choose one niche and just go for it. But of course, choosing it is not always easy, so you have to kind of experiment a lot, I guess. So go ahead and do your experiments, try different things, and but just stop, whenever you feel like you like something, and develop that.
Mm. The cool thing that I also think that you said like about there are so many options, like especially now I think more and more people just because they are bored at home, they like tend to make some games, board games, card games, and the projects like the indie games, like even how to make a game is quite easy to find the tutorials right now.
Yeah,
And there is even more work for artists, especially for the beginner artists, because there are a lot of different beginners like grouping together and just doing cool projects. So I guess on every stage of your skill, you can find a project where you will be
exactly.
useful. So if not, like maybe you will not be paid like the best money ever, but you will learn a lot by in the process. So I guess it's like even it is adding to the whole possibilities of everything. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. But there are also levels, like an indie game, might pay you, I don't know, a certain amount, like $50 a character, $100 a
Mm-hmm.
character. It's not gonna want top quality, right, for that money. And especially, I think that amount, that stage is a lot easier to find, because there are a lot of indie games nowadays, and they're, all need a lot of art and stuff. I think the moment you go past that, so you evolve to get to the next level, there's a stage where indie games no longer won't afford to pay you. Like they won't afford to pay, $500 a character because they will get five from a beginner, right? At that amount. So it's you're gonna start to probably look for work in studios and bigger studios, and stuff like that. And things kind of change there because sometimes they want a different style. Sometimes even though you're kind of close to their style, but you have to do some changes, that you don't really like. You have to use, I don't know, line work more, or you have to use a certain style, or you have to exaggerate something. You have to maybe do a caricature instead of a realistic face, stuff like that. So I always try to stay away from stuff that I don't like, stuff that I'm not happy doing or I
Mm-hmm.
don't enjoy it, because that's my opinion on, art should be something fun, and you shouldn't be doing it for the money, or shouldn't be feeling it as work, even though at the end of the day it will be work, because at some point it's going to be exhausting. It's going to be so much that you're going to
Mm-hmm.
just sit down and do the work because that's it. You can't do anything else.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a tough like occupation to work as an artist because you pretty much combine what you really love doing in your free time with like you what you love doing in free time you will like do professionally like for money like for someone else, and
Yeah,
I guess it might be hard like to set this line where you enjoy working at something and when you enjoy drawing or painting or whatever with actually treating it as a work. So it's also kind of hard. I at least I remember like back in the days I had a problem like to distinguish the line if I am working at the moment or if I am having fun at the moment or what I am actually doing. So for me it was quite of a problem, but I guess the more I learned how to draw and paint and everything, the more I felt like, oh, okay, this is like mostly fun because like I know, even if I have a bad day, I am able to produce something like decent, or at least decent in my opinion. And I guess the better I get, the more fun I have with all the stuff that I do.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So for as an artist, like beside the portraits and perspective, what was like your the hardest things to come through when you were learning, or something like this?
I don't know. For some reason, I kind of liked. I When I started, I kind of. I think a year later, when I actually decided I want to draw because I missed it. I was missing it. Um, I found out about Steve Houston, and he has a lot of videos on New Masters Academy. And I knew about Vilpru and I knew about Michael Hampton, but Steve Houston had something that really there was something about his art and the way he was teaching it. It was so fun to watch, and then I was just spending the whole day, watching his New Masters Academy videos
Mm-hmm.
and just drawing along, and it just kept me going. And I didn't actually find studying figures or learning anatomy that hard because it was super fun for me.
You are lucky then. You are the
Yeah, I
lucky one.
guess. Yeah. Problem came in when I actually started getting better. I started getting to a decent level, and then I thought, okay, what now? What am
Mm-hmm.
I gonna do now? Because most artists, maybe they start with the idea, hey, I want to draw characters, or I like this IP, I want to draw stuff like that, and they actually do it, and they do it in a bad manner, and they then decide, okay, but I don't like it, so I have to learn anatomy. So they learn anatomy with a goal, they I want to learn anatomy because I want to do these kinds of characters or creatures or whatever. And I didn't have that. I started, like, I like anatomy. This looks pretty cool and it's pretty fun. So yeah, I just kept doing it. I didn't think about it much.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, actively searching. It was kind of weird because naturally this is what you do. You wish that you would be able to do something and then you learn how to do it. I just learned how to do something, and then I thought I was trying to figure out what to do with it, what to do with the knowledge. Um, and sometimes I still I to the end to still today to the actual day I really enjoy sketching a lot. So like sketching is the main thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't enjoy rendering that much. And this was a problem with me. Like everyone is saying, like, just finish some stuff, man. Just post something that's finished. And I do have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
finished stuff. And I don't know. It's not the same satisfaction as a good sketch, because there's something about the energy, and you're not spending a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time on it. And but I'm not saying it's easy. Like doing a good sketch takes a lot of time and practice.
Usually when I teach someone or talk generally about art, I always say like the easiest way like to distinguish someone who actually knows how to draw from like someone who can like use shitload of tricks and 3D and everything and photo bashing and everything. Just look at their sketches, because if the sketch is good, then you know this someone really can draw. And like for me personally, I like sketching, but I like sketching when I have a purpose in it. But like just sitting and scribbling something like this, it's completely not for me. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. But
It's
I
interesting.
always felt like if someone can make like a good sketch, then you immediately know he can or can draw, or she or whatever. But for me, for like past 3 or 4 years, I think like the sketching is the most crucial ability that a lot of like beginner artists pretty much don't do. Like they think the nice picture in the end really matters, and the amazing rendering and everything, like drawing and painting all the details. when like in the core, the sketching is like the most important type of thing, in my opinion, to do when you are painting and drawing. And also, this is one of the reasons that I always liked your art, because once again, like, you were like making 10,000 sketches when pretty much everybody else were like able to make 10 sketches or something like this. So it really showed the pretty much the skill and the workshop that you had with all of these things. So yeah. And for the rendering, when you were like painting, because most likely you pretty much, when you paint, you kinda have this traditional like type of style to it. It was like a natural thing that came to you, or just it was a conscious decision to go like into this more traditional looking type of paintings?
No, it wasn't really uh, thinking. I wasn't really thinking about it. It was developed along the years with, starting to draw more and more. I started with, initially, I was using a lot of pencil and traditional, and I think it's still my favorite tool. And I was really good at hatching. I mean, everybody was giving me as an example of how to hatch
Mm-hmm.
things. I liked I remember I liked Dürer. It was like Albrecht
Mm-hmm.
Dürer.
Oh, I love
He
his, I guess,
was
wood cravings. He had like really amazing wood
yeah
cravings.
yeah. He was using the white um I think it was pencil or something. Um, and he was just hatching over the form, so he was like showing the form with the pencil lines, and that was really interesting to me. But I was using the 45-degree hatch, and I managed to do even the curves, even the
Mm-hmm.
cylinders, and all that. I was managing to do them properly. I think architecture helped a bit because I was doing a lot of a lot of drawing and pencil back then. But I mean, I did a lot of painting as well, acrylics and gouache
Mm-hmm.
and all that. But it didn't actually, you know, I really want to learn watercolors though. I think it's a combination of exactly what I like doing. The idea that you need to do a pretty fast thing, otherwise
Mm-hmm.
they will dry up on you, so you won't be able to change them. And it's it's a quick way and a very, very gestural and very energetic thing. And the result is very interesting. Like most of the times, if you look at someone that's really good at that and watercolors, they're gonna have something very interesting.
Yeah, do you know Philip Burburan or something like this?
No,
He's Magic the Gathering artist, and he actually is using only watercolors as far as I know. And the quality that he is able like to achieve with the watercolors is quite amazing. Later, I guess I will send you the name. And for the hatching, before I forget, do you know Andreas Zorn?
yeah, of course,
Yeah, for me it
a
was like always
master,
the
right?
golden standard for like hatching. It's like really
Yeah,
amazing type of art.
look at his etchings. I think that's what they're
Mm-hmm.
called, etchings. The ink scratch, the
Mm-hmm.
super tiny lines of ink. Those are just amazing. I can't stop watching those.
Yeah, and like generally speaking, for your like let's say art heroes when you were like starting to drawing and everything, like who were the most influential on you or for you, or who do you admire most or still do?
There was 'cause when I started out, I told you I was afraid of doing faces, so I thought having an architectural background again, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do environments,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a very inspirational artist. It was like a Romanian Daniel Dociu, if you know him.
No.
He worked at um, ArenaNet. Um, Get the name of the game.
No, I don't know him.
He was doing these environments, and he was actually combining photos with painting. And I thought, and they you couldn't see the photo anymore, so I thought it was really amazing.
So he was good at
And
photobashing then.
yeah, pretty good. And after a while, I started looking at Steve Houston, and I kind of lost interest in environments. And I don't know, I found out artists like Sergei Kolesov, and it was really, really mind blowing when I saw he was doing some live streams or even
Hmm.
videos of his process, and I was like, that is so cool. Like he was just scribbling stuff, and then suddenly you would start seeing shapes, and then you start noticing what's going on in there.
Yeah, sometimes it's like a magic because like you watch someone who is doing something and it kind of feels like they are unraveling some secret type of like black magic to you and everything. But in the end, when you like digest everything, it's like, oh, okay, so basically he drew this and there was like nothing really complicated to it. It's like, okay, I guess I can do it, but not that well as they do. So
Mm.
yeah, for me this was like always the most amazing part when I was like watching the tutorials, that it basically all, it's not that complicated. It's less complicated than I thought it will be for all the
And when you
tutorials.
start doing them,
Yeah, that's right. Also, there is a question for you. So, how do you actually get better at sketching? Is it about mileage or just something that gets better with time, even if all you do is quotes painting?
no, I don't think it's. I think if you do it mindlessly, you're not gonna improve that quick. The thing you have to learn is how to uh, describe something very with as few lines as possible, which is basically simplifying. How do you get to simplify something? And of course, you're gonna start with basic shapes, basic forms, like how do you render a cylinder? Can you render a cylinder in like 10 seconds, or do you need 2 minutes or 10 minutes, or that's the kind of thing. Of course, that is mileage as well, obviously, but um, sometimes you get a super complex shape, right? And instead of just doing a squiggly line and trying to describe that shape as accurately as possible, um, sometimes I mean, instead of doing that, try to actually simplify and try to use 3 lines to describe your shape. Just 3 lines or 4 lines or something like that. When you have super complicated contours, you just try to skip some edges, skip some corners. If the object has 8 corners, you just put 5 or something. You'll put just 4, and try to,
Mm-hmm.
of course, it still has to be readable and this has to be characteristic and it has to look like that object. So for instance, if you look at an apple, which is pretty much round, sometimes it has slight corners, but you're not gonna, you can actually, make a hexagonal thing, like or maybe add some corners on top, and then the bottom is very round, some stuff like that. And these are, of course, to be able to remember, because when you have such a complex shape, it's very hard to remember all the edges and corners. And so if you know that you can do something like that with just a few lines, next time you do it, you're gonna be, the effort is gonna be less. You know.
Mm-hmm. And for like learning how to sketch, for you, what was like your biggest like breakthrough? Like when do you maybe remember the time when you felt like this something clicked in your brain and you like, what was your like milestone? when you felt like it unraveled?
Like
Like when
alert.
you felt something clicked like in your brain and you started to understand all of the things like differently, when you felt you actually really improved, like when that happened.
I think it was when I started being aware of what I was studying. There's a lot of beginners are just copying stuff. They just copy what they see basically. So that's not entirely bad. That's an exercise. And they teach you that in art school a lot
Hmm.
because it helps you develop the sense for proportions and all that stuff. But if you keep doing that only, that's just the only thing you're doing, you're not gonna get uh, very far because when you stop having a when your reference is taken away from you, you don't know what to draw because you are used to copying stuff. So the principle, the philosophy that I use is just even though I'm having a reference, I'm looking at it, I'm imagining it's not there. So like, how do I construct that thing if I don't have a reference? Obviously, I have to start with a basic shape, right? I'm trying to understand, is it a cylinder that helps me create the base shape, or is it a sphere, or is it a box, something like that. I start with that and then I develop further just as I would do if I had to do something from memory, if I don't have a reference. Even though the reference is there and I'm looking at it, I'm consulting it, right?
Hmm.
So having a mindset that you have to use this sort of process where you actually question everything and you think about all the shapes and how what's happening behind that arm where you
Hmm.
don't see it. What are you just drawing the visible part or are you just drawing the whole thing even though you don't see it? So that's kind of the idea. Like,
So basically, what you prefer to do, like I can understand it. You try to understand. Yeah, pretty much you try to understand before like you use a reference. So, for example, it does not matter for you if you have like let's say a Viking reference type of guy standing in front of you, like in front, being placed in front. So because you understand how to draw it, it does not matter he is not like standing like 3/4 or something like this. You can pretty much rotate him because you
yeah,
understand the geometry and everything.
yeah,
Mm.
exactly. But and yeah, sure, that helps you, when you have to do some sort of rendering, illustration, whatever, and you can't find the exact
Hmm.
angle, and then you can use another reference from a
Yeah, I
different
guess
angle.
this
Right?
is the hardest thing to understand
It
as a
is, yeah,
beginner, that you need really to like nail down the geometry and everything, like actually understand the geometry, because at the end pretty much everything is a geometry.
yeah.
And yeah, also if anyone
But
is interested in the way Vlad is thinking and the things that he is doing, he also has some Gumroads on his Gumroad page, so I will display it now. And if anybody is interested, just go there and support him. Just buy all of his tutorials, and I guess maybe in the future he will make some more. There is also a link in the description for the newest one, but just feel free to go to the gumroad.com and just buy everything from him. So it will be cool then if you will support him this way. So yeah, I guess it can be really educational. And yeah, I kind of have like a lot of questions, but I don't know even what type of question I want to ask, because like you really have, I guess, a unique type of style to drawing and painting. And if we will like go back a little bit to all the rendering and everything, uh, how usually do you approach rendering? It's just like adding on different layers with more detail, or do you have like a workflow to it?
it's just, I think the very important part is just the sketching, right? Because a lot of beginners, I think, they can relate that they start rendering something and they just get lost in the rendering process, and they at some point after half an hour of working they realize they just rendered half a face or one eye or one arm and
Hmm.
it's super tight, and then they look at the other arms or the other elements and they're like, oh, these are very sketchy, they're not even constructed
Domestic
yet.
second eye, impossible to draw.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So if you figure that out from the first try, from the first stage, like the initial
Hmm.
sketching stage, everything goes so smooth. It's just seamless. So I always think that's a very important part, like figuring out the pose, like figuring out shapes, composition, like, and when I talk about composition, it's like how do you, how all these elements on the armor kind of communicate, right? Because you can just throw in there some stuff and make it look cool. You have to kind of leave spaces. You leave room for the stuff to breathe. Like the viewer will actually need some space to um, take some breaks from all the details. Because if you throw details everywhere, viewer is gonna feel overwhelmed. It's not gonna know where to look at, and it's gonna get super heavy. So always try to even and not only in details in terms of like how much do you render
Hmm.
an area, but details in terms of do you have these kinds of ornaments on the armor or stuff like that. How much again it comes to simplifying. If I don't want to show some parts of the beard or something, I'll just leave it with a few brush strokes and that's it.
Hmm.
You don't want to go there. That's not important. That's what you're communicating. The important part is the face, under the nose or something like that. Go there. So in order to make the viewer go there, you darken that area a bit more. So you're creating a contrast there. So guiding your viewer, even subconsciously, is a very big part of an image looking good, right? And I found that again, designing, like how do you position all the elements and how much elements you put in, basically, is also important.
Also, one of the things that I guess I heard from several people who are really like good at sketching, sometimes they have some problems with like rendering everything really tight, as you said, like when people were like writing to you to post like finished stuff, because when you once discover like you can, for example, draw an entire face with like just a three triangles, or like you can really simplify it. It's really hard to like go beyond this simplification, because everything that needs to be there is already there, so you don't
Yeah.
really need to add anything more to it to make it look a little bit better. So I guess maybe it's not a problem, but a lot of artists that are really good at sketching have some problems with rendering, actually, because like they already got this essence of everything like on the painting. And for you, what was like your most complex piece you have ever done, or you spent most time rendering on?
That's a really good point. Um, I think I think I have a few that I can't really show yet. They're
Mm-hmm.
NDA, but from my portfolio, I think it's the Druid Centaur one.
Oh, the one that I used for the header on the Facebook. Oh, okay, nice, nice, nice.
Yeah, and
And
that was
mhm.
again a little bit harder because I had to push myself a little bit more and still, there's this thing that I had even in architecture school. Like I would start a project, and it would get so complicated that I would get into the stage that I really want to get it over with. I don't care anymore, so I
Mhm.
just I just want to finish it, get it done.
Mm.
And I hate it. I hate that thing. I want to just enjoy the full process, because if you get to that stage, you're like, you don't care anymore, so you're gonna leave some areas that aren't that interesting. Or, in that case, in the druid's case, it was the part of the bottom part with the horse part. Basically, I don't think it matches the dynamic of the upper body. So initially I it was a bit different, but I just couldn't spend more time on it, so I just left it with a very static pose in the horse part.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that was the
actually,
problem.
even the anatomy of the horse is quite hard to get. Like, as far as I know, a lot of like especially the like old school artists were like even specializing in drawing horses and everything because they are like entirely different. Like, it's a different art to draw them like correctly to make them look really good. So, for you also, what are your like at the moment top things that you find hard to draw or paint?
Mm, I think well, there are a lot of hard things to paint, but I think it's important what you're focusing on, I guess. And I still find portraits a bit hard, because even though it might be hard to believe, like I still don't just start painting, wake up and go to a computer and just
Hmm.
start painting and doing a face and everything is perfect. I just no, I just have to, I don't know, have to remember stuff or have to be aware of, be careful,
Hmm. To be
just spend
honest,
more
I have a
time.
hard time believing portraits are hard for you. After seeing
Yeah.
your portraits, it's really hard to believe for me. But yeah, and for the themes that you are usually painting, is like vast majority of it is like fantasy type of stuff. Like, you don't make a lot of science fiction, right?
No.
There's a reason, or you just don't enjoy science fiction?
Um, the thing is, I think I do enjoy it, but it's a weird thing. Like if I'm doing something that's fantasy,
Hmm.
I get a lot of references, and you can get inspiration from medieval and a lot of other sources, and you can get actually inspiration stuff that's been battle tested and all that stuff. You can look at Viking era, and you can get stuff that was actually real and was tested and used in
Hmm.
battle, and it looks super cool. But when you're doing sci-fi, you're not exactly. I mean,
Yeah, it's more about
most of
cool
the times
shapes.
it's
Hmm.
bullshit. Like it doesn't not even designers know what that is. What's he wearing? What does that do?
Hmm.
I had some had a phase where I really was hyped about Predator, and I did some designs and tried to do some characters, some not only armor designs, but also redesigned the creature itself. And I think it's like the problem is I really want functional stuff. So I want things to make sense. And in sci-fi, a lot of stuff doesn't really make sense, or it doesn't matter. It's
Hmm.
just stuff that looks good and nobody knows what they do.
Yeah,
So
it's
those
also
would
one of the things that is really hard in terms of like a game and design and everything and illustration, and especially the science fiction. That, as you said, it's really like, let's say, easy to design something for a medieval type of times because you know what was there and what was working, what was not working. But for the science fiction, this is also one of the things that I found myself like being really hard because you kinda have to invent something really new. and it might be a different problem, especially for like if someone is trying to draw something like really cool. Just like to discover the coolness of something is kind of hard. And also just for like your style, I personally think that your style fits way more to all the like fantasy medieval type of stuff instead of like science fiction. And I also think like your just way of painting kind of supports the fantasy a bit more. Like you were thinking about it ever, or just
Yeah, I was. The thing is, I was also thinking of, okay, if I choose the sci-fi genre, I would have to also, maybe draw vehicles or bikes or most of the times they have these buildings, like if you draw a character in a sci-fi setting, it's gonna, be in a futuristic city or something like that, or it
mm-hmm.
has some sort of tech. And I never actually liked drawing vehicles. Like that was something like super. I wouldn't say it's hard still. What actually what is hard is a certain angle where the areas that get close to the horizon line. When you have a perspective
Mm-hmm.
and when you draw, a vehicle that's or any object that's in between. That's a bit above the horizon, a bit below the
Mm-hmm.
horizon. Areas that are very close or matching the horizon are super hard to draw because they're foreshortened. And it's like drawing a human from above, right? It's like crazy.
Yeah,
And
it's a horror.
yeah, and you can't really, I mean, unless you're using, the construction methods and all that stuff to
Mm-hmm.
actually know how how long that thing is and how do you see it in foreshortened perspective. It's like really hard to just imagine that
It's hard to
that's
eyeball it, but yeah, I agree. Like to draw a vehicle like properly in perspective, you really need to put your time in the
yeah.
perspective grid and the geometry and foreshortening and like dissecting everything to like smallest details. So yeah, it's a little bit different type of art. That's right. And also like just coming back to the fantasy, because usually I tend to ask also, do you play games or something like this, or you are just like not type of a gamer, let's say person.
I am, yeah.
And what are your favorite games and movies and all of this? Or what would you say was the most influencing for you, or were they
um
even like were they influencing you at all?
I played a lot of Blizzard. I mean, I think I played all Blizzard games. Starting with, I also had periods where I would play World of Warcraft all day long and drink Coke and all that stuff. So I've been through that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Played a lot of Diablo 2. I'm still waiting for Diablo 4. Like that's gonna be
Uh-huh.
because 3 was a failure, so I hope 4 is gonna be
Yeah.
um
The third one had its moments, but it was like not many of them.
I don't know. It was like as far as I know, because I watched some videos and it seemed like the team that did Diablo 3 had no idea what they were doing, and they took like WoW, they took World of
Mm-hmm.
Warcraft as a reference, right? So that's why it's kind of cartoony and stuff like that.
It looked more like it was like directed at the Chinese market when yeah, pretty much the whole style was a little bit like this Asian type of style. Everything was a little bit too big and too cartoony. That's right.
And there was something about one of the designers talked about why did they do the huge shoulder things in the armor, and they said they needed to show evolution, like the character is evolving. So
Mm-hmm.
if you level up and get better armor, it's gonna be bigger, And I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's their philosophy behind
Mm-hmm.
designing it.
Yeah, what I really loved about, for example, Diablo 2, when you were like equipping new cool like green armor, and it was like the same armor but it was green, and you were like, whoa, this is so cool, this armor is so powerful now. So yeah, they could like leave it on this stage. It was fun. So for like your favorite games, there were Blizzard, right? Or no?
Favorite? I had moments. I don't know. I was like, for instance, I'm still playing Apex Legends,
Hmm.
which is a shooter. As I played Overwatch, it's kind of had a lot of moments. I try to play competitive, but I don't think it's for me because some people just spend way too much time
Yeah.
playing it. Yeah,
You ever heard about the game called Hunt Showdown?
no.
It's a pretty new thing that a friend of mine showed me, but it's really cool in terms of aesthetics. So if you are like into all of this like Wild West but in a really dark vibe type of stylistic, it's look extremely cool. But in terms of like a competitive gaming, then it's like the, I guess, one of the hardest games I have ever played, because it's like the curve of learning is so like high. It's so extremely hard to start playing this game, because like pretty much a lot of folks just play this game all the time, and you start a match, you get a headshot after like 1 minute, and you die, and you have to start all over again. So yeah, it's kind of funny. But in terms of stylistics, it's really nice game. I really suggest you to watch it up. So later, I guess I will send you a link. And for the movies, what are your like favorite movies,
I don't think they're
or what?
sci-fi or fantasy, or I don't think they're related to what I'm doing for artistic work.
Hmm.
Um, I was actually trying to revisit some sniper movies, and Enemy at the Gates came up, and I think that was such an amazing movie.
Yeah, it's kind of rare, because usually when I ask someone, most of the time it's like the game, movies, and art. Usually it's quite connected. So yeah, it's a nice change of things. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess
Hmm.
I liked. I mean, I think everybody liked, like Terminator 1 and 2, especially 2,
Hmm.
and Predator 1, and all those movies, Alien. They were amazing movies. I mean, I think it's out of the question that I don't have to mention anyway anymore. So those are pretty obvious. But later, early, what's going on today, for instance, like the latest Predator movie,
Hmm.
those are some jokes. Like they just want to make some money and
It's
use
hard
the
to watch them. That's right.
yeah. And if you, I mean, if you take them as silly movies and just watch them while doing something else and don't pay much attention, then yeah, they're good. But if you analyze them and you see, just try to imagine, what's going on in there in terms of realism and
Hmm.
stuff like that. I still I can't get that scene out of my mind when there's a guy that walks into the ship of the predator, and the predator hooks his leg.
Hmm.
He has a hook in his arm, and he just hooks his leg. The wire wraps around his leg, and the next scene he's hanging from the ceiling or something. So how the hell did he get there? That doesn't make any sense at all. So it just threw me off entirely. I was like, did they even thought about this scene when they did it? And later on, I understood there was a lot of editing because they changed a lot of things.
Hmm.
Because I don't know, the director didn't like a lot of the stuff, so they refilmed it, and it was a mess basically. So, um,
Yeah, for me, the part that threw me off was the predator dogs. Like the scenes with the predator dogs, they were so dumb. I remember when I was watching it, I was like, okay, I need a break. Like it's like exhausting to watch this movie at this point. But yeah, also a friend of mine is like a huge Terminator, not Terminator, Predator and Alien fan. So like he pretty much knows everything about the genre. And I remember when this like new Predator came out, like he was really mad at the movie because it was, at his opinion, it was really bad. So I guess a lot of people like have the same opinion about it. So yeah, and also like asking questions from like a different direction because currently you live in Romania, right?
Yeah.
Uh, how is the life for the artist in Romania? Like, is it easy, not easy? There are a lot of artists, not a lot of artists, because I know, like, for example, in Russia, there's like a lot of different artists, but I never heard anything about like Romania. Like, how does it stand in terms of art and everything?
It's pretty good actually. I mean, we have some good artists as well. Um, but there's not much going on in here in terms of art. We have like three big studios, and they're really bad. Like, you just don't want to work there unless you're trying to figure stuff out. You're a beginner, and every time I hear a Romanian artist trying to get into Ubisoft Romania, I was like, okay, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't know. So yeah, it's the community is not that developed. It's not like we have a lot of meetings and like it's going on in Berlin or places like those. So and most people are doing freelance, so yeah,
Yeah,
or
because
they're just gone. They're not living here anymore.
also
Like,
costs of living in Romania are not that high, right? Or they
uh,
are.
no, I mean, if you have like, you can actually live with pretty decently with, $700 or five hundred
Oh,
dollars.
nice,
I mean, if you have rent, I guess around 700 will get you nicely.
nice. Oh yeah, a nice place then to be a freelancer. Also, I think this is one of the
Yeah,
best things of being a freelancer. You can like pretty much work
you can
anywhere,
exactly. Yeah.
especially now. Yeah.
Yes.
And you live in Bucharest, right?
Yes.
Nice. And there is a huge difference between like living in a, for example, a smaller town in Romania or living in like a bigger town.
Um, I guess it's the it depends on how big, because I mean I haven't had the experience, so I don't know.
Hmm.
But you shouldn't be missing anything. Like we have shops everywhere, in every big city. I guess you can if you live in a smaller town. I mean, for an artist that does freelance, right? It
Hmm.
doesn't really matter. For someone who's required to get a physical job or he has to go to a physical place. I guess it matters, but for an artist, is maybe you have to walk a little bit more to get certain things that in Bucharest you'll get somewhere near you, or like a certain type of food or a certain brand of, I don't know, clothing or stuff like that. So you're not gonna find malls in small
Hmm.
towns, right? So you have to kind of walk or drive a little bit more to get to a bigger place.
Hmm.
So that's the only thing.
Yeah, because like I'm asking because like really back in the days when I was in high school, I guess we had like a trip to the Romania to Sighișoara, I guess, somewhere in
Yeah.
there, into the mountains, and I remember like for the most of the trip I was like sleeping, but I remember when we were like passing through like some big city and it looked really cool. It was like a really nice city, And later, when I woke up, it was because we were in the middle of the forest and the wolves were around our bus, and we couldn't drive because like the whole wolf pack was around us, and we had just to wait until they get bored of everything. And later, we were like in the forest, in the mountains, and everything. I don't remember the exact location, but I remember like the forests of the Romania were extremely beautiful. Like they were really nice in terms of like uh, landscapes, like just being landscapes. It's a really nice country for this type of stuff, for
Nowadays, they're
vacation.
just chopping it off.
The
It's just
forests?
a problem. Yeah,
Uh,
the problem with foresting illegally stuff, whatever.
mm. Yeah, the funny thing also that I remember when we were like exploring, there is in Romania somewhere like a deepest cave, like the opening in the earth that it's like a vertical cave or something like this. And the one thing was I almost fell into it because there were like no barriers near to it, and I slipped on the mud, but it went well. But yeah, I remember like the Romania being a really nice place to visit. It was a really funny country to be in. So yeah. And have you traveled ever? Like, have you ever thought about like working abroad or something like this, or full freelance?
Not really. I'm pretty much attached to, the place I live.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like having my own place, instead of some people like, they don't care, just wanna have a bed and
Mm-hmm.
conditions and they can do anything and they just wanna travel. I prefer having, my own place and I kind of invested a lot of resources, in decorating it and stuff like that.
Nice. And how are the artists like typically even by your friends like viewed by the majority of the society? Like, do they treat the artist type of job as like a hobby type of job, or is it treated a little bit more seriously?
In the Romanian artists.
I mean, like the I'm not sure how to ask it. Like, what is the view on artists by the general society, or something like this? Like,
No, I'm still not,
mm,
not
how to say it?
really.
Um, if you say to someone you're like a freelance artist, like let's say you don't know someone and he asks you what are you doing for your living, and you say them that
Okay.
you are an artist, so what most likely will be the reaction from someone who is like living in Romania?
Actually, it's pretty good because people are starting to understand what that is, So I was actually having a team of guys assembling my furniture a few weeks ago, and I was talking to them, and I said I'm a concert artist, and they immediately knew what it was because one of their daughter,
Hmm.
the daughter of one of them was actually was trying to get to become a concert artist and work for a Pixar or something like that.
Hmm, nice.
And usually people, I mean, if I even show them what I do, they're very responsive, and I even got a lot of ex schoolmates, that I haven't spoken for years, and they suddenly message me to congratulate me to say that I'm really doing a great job
Hmm,
and
nice.
you know yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Hmm. Yeah. And like because like you were living in the Romania for your whole life, right? And you have any like not high school universities with art or something like this, and how
Yeah,
are
we
they
have a
viewed?
few. We have two or three
Mm-hmm.
in Bucharest. In my opinion, or in most of the decent artists' opinion, they're very bad
Hmm.
because teachers are very old. They don't do Photoshop. They don't do stuff like that. They just do, old school stuff.
Hmm.
They don't want to adapt to the old, to the new things. They think Photoshop is like,
Hmm.
well, what is that? No, that's not real art. And they don't actually let you evolve. They give you a mindset. And I'm sorry to say this, but also the people that graduate and they don't actually do stuff for themselves. I mean, if you just go there and do the classes and then come back home and do something else,
Hmm.
you're gonna get like a really you're gonna get this mindset that you don't need like basic principles. You just have to draw whatever you feel like, and
Hmm.
even if your portraits are, badly constructed, that's okay, because that's how you felt,
Ah, so
which
a
is
little bit more like
super wrong.
artistic type of approach
Yeah,
then.
very artistic, but
Uh,
skipping basics and go to expressivity, like that's
okay.
really, and anatomy as well. That's pretty.
Yeah, I guess to be honest now it's really hard to find like a really good teacher for the anatomy like everywhere. Like I don't think there are like a lot of
Like
them.
physical,
Like I
like in a physical
mhm.
school.
Yeah, like in a physical school. Like I think like back in the days I can imagine like there were like pretty much every single like art school had like this master teachers for the anatomy and everything. And now I guess it is kind of a rarity to have like a really good teacher for like an art. So yeah, because like you were studying architecture, or it was like in the middle school type of thing.
Yeah, in the high school.
Ah, okay. So you never like really like graduated in terms of like university or something like this with
Um,
like an art degree.
no, no, I went to interior design in university.
Mm-hmm.
Again, pretty. I don't know. I didn't feel like that's my place there. They weren't teaching us anything. They were just, okay, we're gonna start doing this building now.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first project. So you just start designing. That was it. Just,
Uh-huh.
you know, try things out. And you would go to the teacher for feedback, and she would say something, and then you would do the feedback. There were several teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and you would go to another teacher, and they would say, "Oh, that's not good. Who told you to do that?" The other teacher, "No, that's not. Can't be. Impossible." So they're contradicting each other,
Uh-huh.
and I started after I gave up. I started doing web design, and I found out there are design rules. So I had to, research on my own to actually find out that there are rules for designing, and you don't just do random stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine.
So most
But
likely, if you were like to tell someone just study on like through the web or just go to the art school, like 100% just
in
study to the
Romania,
web. Yeah.
absolutely go to online,
Mm.
any online source, like even Proco is a good source
Mm-hmm.
for anatomy. If you instead of just going for a Romanian art.
Nice. And is the situation like changing anyhow, or it's like a
No, I don't
dead
think so.
end?
I don't think so.
Uh, that's kind of lame. Hmm. Nice. And usually when like you are also studying, because like a lot of different artists have all these schedules and everything. Do you have any type of schedule for working, or you are just sitting next to the computer and just drawing and painting pretty much all the time? Or is there like for you like this hour I do this hour I do that, or you have like this self discipline to just work?
I know. Until a few years ago, I was exactly doing that, just sitting and drawing all day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Nowadays, I kind of have to have a schedule because I find myself doing a lot of crappy stuff and instead of just drawing. or even spending a lot of time on things that are non-essential, like finding a reference or stuff like that. Or um, so I try to keep a schedule, yeah,
Mm.
and of course other things, I think with age, you kind of start getting other things to do instead of just drawing all day. You still have to maybe work out more often, or eat properly, or get some sleep. I always heard a lot of artists that they just sleep, a few hours and they just go back to working again.
Yeah, this is
So I
crazy
don't
for me.
know. Yeah, that's gonna come back to you at some point,
Yeah,
because you're not gonna be able to do that your whole life.
yeah, that's right. And when, like, because when you started, like, around the age of, like, let's say 22 or 23, you ever felt like it was a little bit too late for you, or you were, like, not really bothered by the age you started?
No, I wasn't. Maybe now I would be because there are a lot of artists that are, 17 and they're just super good.
Mm-hmm, that's right. That's depressing, to be honest. Mm, nice. And when, like, you started, when, after, like, how many years or months you got your first commission for anything, pretty much, like, let's say drawing instead of, like, web design, because I guess for the web design you had some, right?
Yeah. Um, a few years, I think, maybe 2 years. I got my first. I was successful, obviously. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had a commission for man, that was terrible,
And what it
for a
was?
book cover.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so someone contacted me for to do a book cover, and it was like a scene. A scene with some people in front of a car. The car had the headlights on,
Mm-hmm.
and I was imagining this scene where you would see the silhouettes of these characters and the cars in the background, and it was a scene I imagined.
Mm-hmm.
When I started doing it, it was a terrible thing. It was blurry, and I just sent that for some reason, and the client didn't contact me. He didn't write me back. So it was like starting out.
uh, do you maybe have, like, your oldest artworks or your first artworks or something like this on your drive?
Yeah.
Do you want to show them or something like this?
No.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because, like, usually a lot of different art, like, pretty much like your old stuff are on your Crimson Daggers, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Ah, okay. So I guess maybe you will have something like really way older, but I
Uh,
guess I saw everything then.
I have, I mean, if you want older than Crimson Daggers,
Mm-hmm.
I have traditional stuff, but
Oh,
it's not, I mean, it's physical. I haven't scanned anything.
oh, so maybe for some future streams, maybe
Yeah,
I will ask too.
but they're terrible.
Yeah, that's, I guess that's the whole point, to show them. The worse the drawing, the better it is, to be honest, to see. Yeah, and yeah, and for, like, the painting, for example, for the thing that you are doing right now, like, how often do you, like, just, maybe not how often do you, like, sketch, but uh, how attached do you get to the sketches, or just like they don't really matter for you?
Oh, they don't at all. They're nothing. I can just delete this layer and do another one.
Yeah, because I was, like, watching when you were painting and you just, like, painted all the sketch white instead of, like, I don't know, duplicating it or something like this, and you just started over. And have you ever had a problem with getting too attached to the work you were doing, or it was not a problem for you?
Um, I have these moments where I'm painting and I get something that looks really cool, and my brain somehow is conscious or becomes conscious. As when I'm usually when I'm sketching, I don't really think about, oh, this is gonna be, posted on Instagram, or it has to be good, and
Hmm.
I'm just, I'm not thinking about that. I'm just gonna have fun sketching, and if I have some subject in mind, yeah, sure, I'm gonna keep that in mind. But normally, I don't care that much. But for some reason, when something looks really good, my brain comes in and says, "Oh, this looks good. I hope I don't screw it up." The moment that happens, I get, chills, and I start making a new layer so I don't screw it up.
Hmm.
And for some reason, it breaks the flow. So the moment I do that new layer is like I break concentration or something like that. I lose concentration.
So you need to
So
have like
it's,
the oldest Photoshop version where there were no layers. Like I
oh,
guess the
really?
first, yeah, I guess the first Photoshop had no
Oh,
layers at all.
yeah, I guess.
Nice.
But it's interesting to me, how the mind works, and because and even I guess even when performing, like right now, I know that some people are watching,
Hmm.
so I'm trying to do. I mean, even not me. It's the whole brain, the whole
Hmm.
idea. Is I have this thing in the back of my head. I have to do something that's pretty good. Otherwise I'll disappoint. So but it's not. I know it's not an extreme thing. 'Cause I even used to, back in a few years ago, I danced on a stage that was pretty, like, there were 200 people watching,
Oh,
and
also
that's a
yeah, because you
pretty,
said you were dancing, right?
yeah.
Ah, so
It
you
was,
did it like on the level where you actually were on stage.
oh yeah, but
Oh,
it wasn't really. I mean, it wasn't professional. It was
I guess when you are
an
on stage and
amateur thing.
200 people are watching, it kinda is almost professional.
Well, professional is when you're constantly doing it and
Hmm.
you have constant shows, and it's this one was more like a fun thing. But yeah,
Huh.
I went a little bit further because it was a lot of preparation, like a few months, the choreography. But the idea is like it was such an interesting experience because when I went on the stage, when I was practicing and all that, I was always thinking of steps, counting the rhythm and all that, thinking, okay, now it's the left turn, now it's the left arm. And when you go to the stage, when you're there, everything is gone. There's nothing, no more. You don't have time to think about it.
Hmm.
And it's like the song was like 2 minutes or something like that, and it felt like 3 seconds. So it was like, I don't know, it was such a state of concentration that you don't know what's going on around you anymore. And I was thinking even on the when you go to a concert and you see musicians play
Hmm.
instruments, they're so concentrated, like they're really into the
Yeah, they
moment
are in the zone, like completely
in
in the
the
zone.
song.
Hmm.
Yes, exactly. So I always, it was always an idea, like a curiosity of mine, like how do I reach that when sketching, because most of the times it's
I guess with
really
sketching,
hard.
it kind of requires like the constant thinking and evaluation, like what you do, because you can all the time see what you have done. While, for example, in dancing or in music, once you do it, like it's pretty much gone forever. Like you cannot
Yeah,
see
that's true.
the results. So I guess that why maybe it's a bit harder with art to do, like to just completely zone out while drawing.
you can see it when someone's filming you, but
Hmm. Yeah,
I mean, not in.
I actually felt when I started recording videos, when I was actually recording how I paint, I felt I was doing way better because, as you said, like for the live stream, you
Yeah,
have to make sure you don't mess anything up because the people will think that you are the bad guy
yeah,
and everything. So yeah. So basically, for you, the like hobby outside of painting is dancing.
yeah, or was, because I haven't been for a while.
Okay. And do you have like any other hobbies beside
Um,
art, or no? Or have you ever tried like a martial arts or something like this? Because I discovered a lot of
it,
artists go into the martial arts.
I tried capoeira. It
Oh.
was really fun. So yeah, still related to dancing, I guess. I don't like the idea. The the way it's performed, the atmosphere and
Mm-hmm.
the very. I mean, when you do a martial art thing, you better get ready to get hit, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of avoid that. Um,
But capoeira is this. It's more dancing. Like it's a
yeah,
dancing type of
it's really
martial
intense.
art.
Like, it's, I I hear it's invented by the slaves or something. Um,
In the Brazil, I
so
guess, right?
yeah, and they were inventing this martial art thing so that the guards don't notice that they're actually fighting.
Mm-hmm.
They thought they were dancing.
Yeah, I
So
heard this
it's
one like before. Yeah, kind of
the
funny.
the the blows are very powerful if you can land them. That's the problem.
Mm. Yeah, I
And
used to train some martial arts, and when someone actually knows how to hit you,
yeah,
then it really hurts. Like the force is not everything, but if someone knows how the technique works, then it
yeah.
really hurts. So yeah, and when you started like dancing, and pretty much why you started dancing in the first place?
I think it was 7 years ago.
Oh,
Um,
so it started like pretty much with art.
I guess, yeah. I started because it was funny because a friend of mine was going and he suggested I'd go and I said I'm not gonna go, it's not for me. And then I had a birthday party, and one of the guys that came was actually taking classes,
Mm-hmm.
and I had one salsa song in my computer, and I played
Mm-hmm.
that, and this guy started showing us the basic steps, and I was like, this is so fun, I'm gonna go, and started going, and it was not only, I think it was more even socially. I really like the social idea of it because um, I kind of had some social. I had a hard time integrating basically in
Mm.
the society when because
A lot of
some,
artists actually do. Like a lot of
yeah, I
artists are
guess,
like complete introverts.
yeah. So it helped me so much. I mean, it just developed, like it went way up off the roof. Like I
Mm.
felt super confident in talking to people and keeping conversations and then had absolutely no problem.
Yeah, actually,
So it
like
was,
dancing is like it really requires like a lot of confidence to have if you want to like do it even like decently. Like you really need to be confident of yourself to start dancing.
especially when you go on stage. Yeah,
Yeah, I even can say just by my experience because when like not many times but sometimes it happens, I go to the some sort of a club. When I have to start dancing, then I actually feel like I feel extremely not confident in anything I do. Like I personally, I maybe not hate dancing. I enjoy moving, but if I were to like just dance for the sake of dancing, I guess I will stress myself out completely. It will kill me, I guess.
and imagine I'm also pretty perfectionist, and
Mm-hmm.
very critical to the way I look, when dancing and all that. And it's funny how I see people like even after they started
Mm-hmm.
at the same time as I did, and I see them doing the same mistakes over and over again, and then just not evolving at all.
Mm-hmm. There's a
And I
small question like in between the dancing thing. What is the best resolution for sketching? So I guess it will be just to show what type of
the best
resolution you work in.
resolution.
Yeah, like the pixel wise, I guess. I don't think it
Oh,
really matters, to be honest.
it's depending on the brush, I guess. Because if you have a brush like this, you can see the spaces in between the
Hmm.
pixels, the covered pixels is pretty big. So if you imagine if you put this one in I don't know, under 10 pixels, it's gonna be really transparent. So it's not gonna cover everything.
Hmm.
So in order to get a full covered line, I have to do like several, like 10 lines. And if you're using accents like I do, so you do something like this, and you want the
Hmm.
full value here, then that's going to be a problem, right? But if you're, I don't know, taking a brush that covers like this,
Hmm.
that doesn't really matter. Also, if you're working with a soft brush like this one, I mean, imagine again putting a super low resolution on this one.
Oh,
Never going to see the edges,
this
right?
is the
So
brush I found when you. I guess back in the day you posted like your brush pack, and I was like, okay, now I will like make my studies like you do, and this is the only brush that stayed with me when I found your brush pack. But
I find it very good for anatomy and organic stuff.
yeah,
But when you
it
get
was really
to
pleasant.
like belts and armor and stuff like that's a little bit more hard edged,
Mm.
you're gonna get a hard time doing it because it's very soft. So you have to. I know it was a big problem for me because I started enjoying figures so much because
Mm.
of that brush, and I wasn't doing much designs because they weren't enjoyable with it because it was super
Mm-hmm.
hard to get a hard edge with that soft brush.
Yeah, and like going back to the dancing because it's quite kind of interesting. What type of dancing were you doing or are you doing?
Latino like salsa, bachata, uh, even some tango,
Ah, okay.
kizomba.
I have like the really basic understand of the names, like, but I mostly I know these names, so okay.
Basically social dances,
Mm-hmm.
dances that you can dance in pairs. And socially means that you don't need a choreography to dance it, right? So you just have to get a partner, and there
Mm-hmm.
are some signs that the partner
Ah.
will understand and you will perform. Basically, the guy gives all the commands, and the girl has to perform basically.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if you know the song and then you know the stops in the rhythms, you can do something really interesting.
Ah, nice.
It's really fun. But yeah, the interaction is really, I think, is what kept me going.
Yeah, it's also I guess like even for the artists, like dancing is one of the better I guess type of stuff to practice because like once as you said the confidence is like going through the roof when you know actually how to dance, and it's kind of demanding in terms of like condition and cardio and everything. Like I guess it's not a easy way. Like it's a really hard training I guess to learn how to dance.
It is a bit, yeah.
Hmm. And compared, like, have you ever like been the type of guy that goes to the gym and everything, or not? Like, can you
Yeah.
compare the how hard it is?
Oh, it's not as hard as going to the gym.
Uh, okay.
I had a period of time where I was going to the gym with a colleague from work, and he even doing these was even competing, at some point.
Oh,
So he knew a lot of
he
stuff,
had to be huge.
and he was pushing me so hard. It was like, uh, do one more, and I was doing okay, no, another one. And I was like, You've seen the Arnold stuff.
Uh,
Yeah, there was something like that. And yeah, that was nothing compared to dancing. Dancing is very, I mean, it's a little bit of cardio, but I mean, it depends, right? If
I
you
guess
have a
depends on the type of dance also.
Yeah, and a song, I mean, if you have a fast song, then you'll sweat over in 2 minutes.
Hmm.
You'll be super sweaty.
Also the coordination, I guess, like this. I can imagine it being a hard part, like to coordinate all the like limbs and everything together, just to
It's
like perform the move. So.
it's again very interesting because I can always associate it with driving. If you have a
Hmm.
license, you know that at first you have to kind of correlate, the where the pedals, what do you have
Hmm.
to press, and then you have the wheel and the stick.
Yeah,
If
like
you have
you have everything
manual,
is separated instead of like being
exactly.
at
So
one unit.
yeah, and you have to kind of be aware of all of them, right? So if you're just starting out, it's going to be impossible to be aware of all three. So you're gonna just have to start um, getting familiar with one of them, like the pedals. So you're gonna be more careful with those. Just like dancing, you don't start doing hand gestures and stuff like that,
Hmm.
hand styling, because it's gonna be super hard to control the legs and the hands at the same time. But once the legs become intuitive and you don't think about the steps anymore, you just think about the rhythm and the music,
Hmm.
then your brain is free to, think about the hand styling. How do you move your hands, or the posture and face mimic. And there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, quite interesting because you are like the second person I ever met who were like dancing for a longer period of time. Like the first one was my professor from my photography professor. He also was the type of a dancer guy, but he was like a really specific type of character. So yeah, so you are like the second one that I ever knew that were dancing. Fun. And like uh, when you were at the for example, let's say when you are at the stage, like how it happened that you went to the stage with the dancing.
Um, like how did I get there?
Yeah,
You know,
like was
it
some
was
sort of a contest or something like this.
no, there are different schools
Hmm.
that teach dancing, and from time to time there are festivals, and
Ah.
everyone gathers, and there are shows, and basically everyone can join, and each school can, showcase their students, and
Hmm.
their teachers basically showcase how well they can teach their students, basically. And you can volunteer to get into
Hmm.
the show, and you have to. There's a choreography, and you have to learn it, and it's not social anymore, right? So there are you have to learn all the steps and perform it on a specific song.
Nice. So for like a beginner dancer, what would you like recommend most? Like to start with what type of dancing if someone wants to get into dancing?
I have no idea.
Ah,
Depends.
okay. Nice. Yeah, it's kind of funny just like sometimes when I see what type of like let's say combinations some artists do. Like or maybe I will ask a different question. Do you feel like for example dancing helped you develop art in any way?
Hmm.
Or was it like just two separate things that had some things in common?
No, I don't think it did. But another thing did, which is another one of my passion, because you were asking.
Hmm.
Um, it's building Legos.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
I've been introduced to this. I don't know if you know Lego Technic.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
yeah. my parents bought it me when I was little, and I just fell in love. And I played with other sets as well, like Lego City and the minifigures and all that stuff. But they weren't as catchy as this one. Um, and I was, for now just fooling around, right? Because there are people just designing crazy stuff and
Mm-hmm.
just posting it online.
Yeah, great stuff to like watch before you sleep. Just this crazy Lego type of mechanism and everything.
Yeah, I'm more into. I mean, I kind of like mechanism, the technical part,
Mm-hmm.
but what I'm interested in is mostly design. So, like how to connect all the panels and the parts to actually make something that looks good. And I think there are a lot of engineers working with Lego, and they do amazing stuff, but they lack design. So everything they do looks like super boxy, and
Mm-hmm.
you're creating a supercar that looks like a box. That's not gonna work, right? So I'm really interested in the design part. But the interesting side is that I can relate to the process. The process I can relate to the art because it's the same exact thing. Like I'm trying to design something,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm taking blueprints and all that stuff, and I'm trying to fit panels, parts, Lego parts, and I'm trying to fit them together to get the certain shape, right? And at some point it's fun, but then you get to a stage where something doesn't work, and the
Mm-hmm.
panel is too long or too short. You need another one that doesn't fit. And it's like exactly like the drawing part. Like you draw and it's fun, and sometimes at some point a hand doesn't
Yeah.
come out.
Or you just
And
flip the image and you see all the mistakes.
yeah, so what do you do, And it's a very similar process, and I think I learned without even without being conscious about it, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of learned like how to see it from a different angle, for instance, or like you said, flipping it. Like how to redesign that, but keeping in mind the basic idea that I started with, or looking for a different solution, or combining it. I don't know, getting basically how to solve, a problem that might
Mm-hmm.
appear in the process.
Yeah, most likely like pretty much doing illustrations is just like a problem solving. Like you have several problems to solve. And
Yeah.
also for the legal Legos, like one of the things that I often really heard from a lot of different folks is like, for example, just to go to work with 3D software, for example, when you are like a beginner artist, because you will get familiar with the shapes, how they behave in the space. And also, this one of the things that I heard like many times. Just actually, a lot of artists should go into sculpting because then you can understand the volume of the things. And I guess it's pretty much exactly the same thing with Lego because you have all these simplified blocks and everything and the shapes that you can pretty much interact with. So I guess your brain will understand how they behave in space. So it might really push your like drawing skills without actually drawing, just by looking at the shapes in the perspective. But yeah, that's a cool hobby. But I guess it's kind of expensive one, right?
Yeah, it is. And it, lately it's kind of weird because the quality dropped as well. I think it's happening all over the world. As the latest set
Mm-hmm.
has some green parts that have different tints, and that never happened before with Lego. And I mean, you're
Yeah,
spending like,
usually they were like the pieces from like 10 years ago will be exactly the same, like bought, let's say, right now, as far as I know. Ah, so that's weird that the quality changed.
yeah,
But I heard they
and
also changed the material they were making the Legos out from. They wanted to get rid of the like plastic and change it with something a little bit more biodegradable or something like this. But I don't know if they implemented like the change. Maybe that was the reason for it. So also I guess the patent for the Lego like ended several years ago or 2 years ago or something like this. So now everybody can make like the Lego pieces legally because it's over 50 years old, I guess, something like this. Maybe this was also the reason. So
I didn't know that. Hmm.
yeah, I would need to look this up, but I heard the patent is open. So for example, if you would like to like make your own Legos now, you legally can do it.
Even the parts they're already producing.
Not sure about the parts they are producing, but if you would like to make like your own set and produce it and sell it, I think you legally can now, but I will need to check this one up. So maybe you just had some like not fake. I need to change the word. Check the word. Uh, counterfeit Legos. Maybe you had some bad luck with it.
There's a lot of companies doing that, Chinese especially, and they're battling Lego. And I heard they actually bought one of them because they couldn't get them out of the market, so they just bought the company.
Nice. There's a question: were you ever into Warhammer and miniatures and everything?
No, not really. I keep hearing about this, and I haven't actually played.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not sure. Is it a strategy or what is?
it's like just a miniature collecting and painting them just for the sake of
Oh,
having a
just
nice army, and then you can like battle them on the battleground or something. I never played it. Like I only heard about the collecting part, and like used to do it like I guess 15 years ago or something like this, but I never went too far, so I don't know a lot about this hobby. And for the Lego Technics, because like you only collect Lego Technics or like the normal sets also?
no, just the techniques.
In Technics you have the figures, the human figures or not?
Yeah, I did.
Cool. Nice one. Yeah, so this one is really interesting, to be honest, with the Legos. And and for the availability in Romania, it's like we're like it is available without any problems.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Okay. Do you have anything else you would like to share or something like this? Because how long, how much time do you all have? Because I'm keeping you for almost 2 hours at the moment. So, uh, would you like to like share anything else or what?
Nothing specific.
So, I guess maybe someone has an additional question, or do you have time and do you want to paint still? Because for me, I can like sit a whole night long.
Yeah, sure, I can sit a while longer.
Okay, so I guess maybe several minutes more wouldn't do the harm. So, uh, for the questions, let's say, what are like your this is like a typical question. I forgot to ask this one, but what are your goals at the moment, like to develop as an artist? Like, what is the next stage, next step for you? Let's say.
Um, I'm trying to push this sketching idea a bit further. Like, mm, till now, I was struggling a lot with even poses. So I was every time I wanted to do a character, I was spending so much time on the poses. It was a bit frustrating because I would never even to get to the point where actually I would spend a lot of time on the pose and then I would come in and cover it with the armor and it was frustrating. So, but I think the idea is to get a balance between the pose and what you see from the figure and what does the armor or the clothing what kind of shape does the armor create with it. So it's kind of a balance. Like how do you, because you can't just put a weird looking coat on your character. So I think I wanna work on a more dynamic approach to the poses
Mhm.
and a lot of design. And nowadays I'm working a lot on design.
Mhm. And
I
you ever thought
really,
about like going, for example, into the 3D type of world or something like this, or no 3D for you?
if I would go to 3D, would be for
Or if you ever considered like learning the, for example, the 3D software. I don't know if you like know any type of software, but have you ever considered like learning those type of skills?
I learned a bit of Blender, but it wasn't for characters. It was
Ah,
for
okay.
structures, architecture.
Oh, okay. And also, yeah, this is one of the questions I wanted to ask earlier, but forgot. Most of your works is related to design, illustration, concept art, or what type of projects do you mostly work on? If you can say it.
Yeah, mostly is. I mean, it's also design, but I mean mostly design, but also illustration. So I also have book covers and all sorts of covers for prints. But yeah, mostly it's like most people ask me for the thing that I like, which is a lot of sketching.
Oh, nice. And for like, do you have any type of a dream company, let's say, that you would like to work for, like any day, or you would like to most likely stay like freelance and just go with all the indie cool projects, or is there like any company that you really would like to work for one day?
No, it's I'm not even when starting out, I don't think I ever had this kind of thing because I know that, Blizzard, for instance, if you want to work for Blizzard, you
Mm-hmm.
kind of have to have a certain style and certain workflow. They like their
Mm-hmm.
line art. So I would rather, focus on a Patreon or something that's a personal stuff.
Mm-hmm. And have you
Uh,
ever considered like making some sort of a comic book or something like this? Because I guess like with your style, it will be like you will be able to finish like a lot of pages in a no time, pretty much.
I tried. I had some projects.
Mm-hmm.
I hated it so much that I'm not with that
Okay.
because because of the fact that you have to draw the same characters and the same things several
Yeah,
times,
that's right.
and you have to draw basically everything. So a comic book artist, unless you're just doing characters and someone else is doing the background, you're gonna have to do the scenes and vehicles and whatever things there
Mm-hmm.
are in your comic book, like I don't know, animals, horses. You have to draw them all. I remember Mike, the guy who Minola, the guy who made Hellboy,
Mm-hmm.
was saying that he just hated drawing vehicles, and I don't know, it was really funny.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And do you have any sort of a like IP that you are developing or not at the moment?
Um,
Like a bigger
I
project that you want to like, for example, I don't know, make a product or something like this of.
yeah, I do have something, but I can't tell you
Okay,
anything.
so it's secret. So we have something to wait for. So I guess that will be all. I won't like bother you anymore this evening, or yeah, the stream was quite long. So thanks a lot for like being here and drawing and everything and answering all the questions. It was really fun. I guess in the future I most likely will invite you again for maybe some more direct questions if more will come and if there will be more viewers. So any last words or something like this for the stream?
No, thanks for having me. It's no, I having fun doing this, so
Okay. So for everybody who is watching like now or in the future, remember that the Vlad has his Gumroad page. I will display it once again. So just go to his Gumroad and buy every single tutorial that he has. It will be, I guess, a nice way to support your hopefully new favorite artists. So yeah, I guess that will be all. And once again, thanks for drawing everything. And I will end the stream here. So goodbye and thanks
thanks.
everyone who was watching.